Okay, so it should display the ending balance, the total amount of deposits. Okay, so we need a mechanism to keep track of all our deposits. This is where it's accepting the deposit in the loop, deposit amount, right? So what we should do to keep track of the deposit amount is to create an accumulator for the deposit amount. So I'm going to go ahead and create a variable which is going to be a double, which is going to keep track of all our deposits. So I'm going to create total deposits here and then set it to 0. Okay, initially it's 0 and then we'll add up to it. So anytime we have a deposit amount, we want to add that deposit amount to total deposits. So total deposits is going to be equal to what's already stored in total deposits plus the deposit amount. Now this can be written in a shortcut version as total deposits plus equals deposit amount. It's the same thing. It's the same. All this is saying is what is being added to total deposits is deposit amount. Okay, we are adding deposit amount to total deposit. You can think of it that way if it helps. All right, so now we have a way of keeping track of our total deposits. By the time this loop is done, we'll have all our total deposits. Okay. I apologize. I got distracted by someone. I was trying to try to tell the person that I was making a video, and it didn't work. Okay, so I think I even lost track where I ended up. So I can see the cursor is here, so it looks like I was here somewhere. All right, so yes, I think we were keeping track of the total deposits, right? So we created a variable total deposits, set it to 0, and we're adding the deposit amount. Each time we get a deposit, we're adding a deposit amount to it. And I was mentioning that a shortcut for the total deposit is equal to total deposit plus deposit amount is the same as total deposit plus equals total deposit, right? So each time we get a deposit, let's add it to total deposits. And then the question also says over here that we should also keep track of the total amount of withdrawals. So it's going to be the same idea. So let's create a variable. Okay, now the withdrawals is also going to be a double, right? Because the withdrawals is going to be a series of withdrawals, either $50 or 25 point something. So it can be a double. So let's go ahead and define a double and call it total withdrawals. So here, and then let's set that to 0 too. And anytime we get someone to withdraw money from the account, so anytime we get a withdrawal amount, let's go ahead and basically keep track of how many withdrawals. So it's going to be the same as this, right? Instead of total deposits plus equals deposit amount, it's going to be total withdrawals here plus equals the withdrawal amount. And over here, just know that we are not actually performing the withdrawal process here. We are only keeping track of how much money was withdrawn from the account. So this is going to keep track of how our total withdrawals. Now let's see the next thing. So total amount of deposits, total amount of withdrawals, and the total interest end. Total interest end. All right. So this is where we have to think a bit. So let's see something here. The total interest end. We didn't really create the add monthly interest method to. We didn't really create a method to really return the interest, the monthly interest. So it's going to be a bit tough here. Let's see. We'd have to modify our monthly interest method so that we can have our monthly interest each time, right? We would have to do that. So let's see what we can do about it. We would have to redesign this so that we can get the total monthly interest. since this works perfectly, I don't want to change things around. What we can do is basically add another field, although the question didn't require it, right? Now, because it's too late, I didn't really see that part. I haven't done this question. I was doing, we were doing it together for the first time. So instead of trying to, redesign this and have that returned or anything, something like that, let's create a private field here. And this also, should work. Let's create a private field here. It's all, and then call it total interest. Okay, total interest. Now there are several ways to do this, but this is one of them. So total interest, and let's set it to 0. Right? Total interest, let's set it to 0. And each time that let's break this statement into two. Let's first calculate the monthly interest. It's going to be the annual interest rate divided by 12, right? So let's go ahead and cut that, create a variable, double, and then call it monthly interest. So monthly interest is going to be equal to the annual interest rate divided by 12. And once we have the monthly interest over here, we are calculating the monthly interest off the balance, and that's going to be added to the balance. So we also want to keep track of the total interest. So anytime you find the monthly interest, you calculate the monthly interest. Let's see. Let's also, hold on a second. This is going to be the monthly interest rate. Sorry, this is going to be the monthly interest rate. So I'm not thinking through this right. I'm sorry. I was just, doing this on the go, just doing it right here. So I didn't structure it properly. So this is going to be the monthly interest rate actually. So let's see. What's the question requiring? I'm sorry. What's the question is requiring the total, let's see, total interest end. All right. Or the total interest end. Oh, all right. So we can do this. The total interest end is an amount. It's not really even the percentage. I was thinking wrongly over here. So this is going to be actually what we had was this whole value here is so okay. So let's do this. Let's redesign this again. Let's undo this to back where we had everything as it was, right? So yeah, let's not even set the total interest. Let's not even create this, right? Let's delete that, and then we know that annual interest rate here over here, this is our interest, the interest end for that month, because we have the monthly interest rate of the balance. That's going to be the amount for each month anytime it's called. So we can first of all break this into two and then store this amount in a variable, right? And let's define that as a double because it can be a double. And let's say that's going to be the monthly interest. That's the monthly interest. And the monthly interest is going to be this calculation here, which is basically the monthly interest rate off the balance. That's going to be our monthly interest. And then the balance is now going to be equal to the monthly interest. Also, let's go ahead and so the balance is going to be equal to balance plus equals is going to be the monthly interest, right? Let's design this method in such a way that it returns the monthly interest, right? So the monthly interest we want to double. So let's change the return type of this to a double. And then once we add the monthly interest to the balance, let's go ahead and return the monthly interest. Right. By doing this, now in the main program, anytime we call, anytime we call the calculate monthly interest or add monthly interest, what did I call it? I called it somewhere around here. I can't even see it over here. So anytime we call the add monthly interest, we know that it returns something, right? So we know that it returns that particular month. Let's see here. Let's just make sure that this is going to work correctly. So anytime it's called, it's going to calculate the monthly interest of the balance. calculate the monthly interest. Okay, so we've set it to return the monthly interest, right? So let's go ahead and create a variable here in the main program and call it total. That's what the question is asking, right? The total interest earned. So total interest earned. We know that's going to be a double because it can be a double amount. So total interest earned. And anytime we call the add monthly interest, it adds the monthly interest to the balance field, all right? We can see it here. It adds it to the balance field, all right? And it returns the monthly interest. We've set the return type to a double. When it returns it, let's store the value here in total monthly interest. But we don't want to just store it. We want to add it to just like the other ones. We want to add it. We want to accumulate it so we can see all the total interest earned, right? So we're going to store it here. So that's one way to fix it. Hopefully it works properly. All right, so it looks like we're done. And then, so we have to just display the results, right? So it wants us to display the ending balance, which we have here. We can basically continue doing that. So let's use a system.out.printf statement, okay, so that we can format the values. We can just also use the system.out.print, but it's going to be a bit messy. The printf will work better. So we know the printf takes in two arguments, basically. So let's just change this a little bit here. I'll delete this. We know it takes in two arguments. First, how you want it formatted and what you're formatting. Now, how you want it formatted is going to be a format string here, and embedded with format specifiers. And the argument or arguments you pass in here as a second argument is going to replace each format specifier and the format string respectively. So let's go ahead and create the format string first, right? Or we'll even do it back and forth. So you understand what I'm saying when I start doing it. So the final balance at the end of so let's go ahead and create a format specifier here. I'm going to go ahead and create percentage D to stand for an integer. So percentage D is a placeholder and something is going to replace it. What is going to replace it is going to be the number of months, right? So that's stored in user number of months here. So user number of months is going to replace this percentage D. Like I said, the argument or argument you pass in as a second argument is going to replace each placeholder respectively. So the first argument I have here is going to replace the first placeholder. The second argument I have here is going to replace the second placeholder if there's any. So let's go ahead and finish it. So the final balance at the end of percentage D months is, let's go ahead and create another placeholder for a float. So that's going to be our balance, right? So percentage F, which stands for a float. We'll format this some more later on. So the second argument, or the variable value that's going to replace this percentage F for this float placeholder is going to be the account one dot get balance. That's how we created that accessor, right? We created it here, get balance. So get balance is going to return the balance. All right. Now this is exceeding the line, so let me go ahead and break it somewhere around here. All right, so that's it. And then we want to go ahead and create some more, or display some more things. Okay, so the total amount, the balance, the total amount of deposits. So now let's go ahead and create, basically in the string, let's create a new line. So I'm going to type in the \n, which is basically going to create a new line into our in our string. It's after displaying this, is going to take the position from where it's at to the next line. Anything that comes after that will be displayed on that next line. Okay, so let's create a new line and then display the total amount of deposits. The total amount of deposits. So let's say the total amount of deposits. And so let's say total amount of deposits. Let's put a colon here and then create another placeholder and say percentage F, also for a float. And what is going to replace that placeholder is going to be total deposits, which we had here, right? So total deposits, and then I think we have the total withdrawals, right? Okay, so it's going to be basically the same thing, a new line character. We know I'm going to be, this is going to be broken. This is going to be on a new line. It's going to exceed this line. So let me break it here. Type in a plus and break it somewhere around here, right? Okay, so I just broke it on a new line. Okay, so I'm just continuing the string here. You can bring this up here, but I know if I bring it up, it's going to exceed that line, exceed this line here. So I'm going to go ahead and break it here, and then continue the string. Okay, so percentage F. All right, so the next thing is going to be the total amounts of withdrawals. So let's paste that in here. The total amount of withdrawals here, and that's going to be also a percentage F. And what's going to replace that is going to be total withdrawals, if that's how we spelt it. We have it here as total withdrawals. Okay. And then the last thing it wants us to display is the total interest earned, which we have in here, total interest earned. But first, let's go ahead and create the string. Well, I can copy this here. Before that, we need a new line character. So new line character, and then the total interest earned, total interest earned. That's also going to be a percentage F, and what's going to replace it is, let's bring some of these up so you don't get confused. What's going to replace it is, break it here, the total interest earned, like that. Oops. It's going to be the total interest earned here. So total interest earned. All right. Oops, this is a method, so it needs parentheses. We're looking good so far. The only thing is I need to format some of these some more, but we'll get to that. Let's just make sure this is working for now. So let's go ahead and save this. I'm going to go ahead and compile it and save this class test in the same folder as the class, so that when it's trying to create a class from that, it's trying to create an object from that class, okay, from that savings account class, it can find it. When this program is trying to create an object from that savings account class, it can find it. If I save it in the same location, that's what's going to happen. They can find each other. So savings account class, savings account test, I'm going to save it here. Okay, so it compiled completely without any errors. I was expecting some errors. I thought, we messed up a bit, or we probably missed one or two things, but it runs. So let's try it and see if it's running properly. Okay, so please enter the annual interest rates. Let's say let's see, the annual interest rate. Are we going to do, let's see. We can design it in such a way that, because over here is where we are actually doing that. So please enter the annual interest rate. Annual interest rate is going to be called, okay, so we have it here, and let's see something. For the set annual interest rate, right? So let's allow the user to just type in 2% or 5% or 10%, right? Let's not let the user make the calculation or do the calculation and type in, let's say, 0.7 for 7%. Let's let the user be flexible, or let's let the program be flexible to allow the user to type in, let's say, 7 for 7%, 2 for 2%, and so on. So once we get the annual interest rate, set annual interest rate. Once we get a new rate, let's go ahead here and divide a new rate by 100 to get the actual percentage, and then let's set the annual interest rate here to be equal to the new rate divided by 100, and then this is done. So the annual interest rate now will be the new rate divided by 100. That makes sense. So now the user, when we compile this, can just type in 2, and then that's going to be 2 divided by 100, which is 0.02, which is going to save us 2%, right? So when I type 2 here and hit enter, it says, please enter the starting balance. That starts with $1,000. Please enter the number of months. Well, I'm supposed to make this a regular string with spaces. Number of months, let's say over a period of 6 months, how much am I going to make on it? Okay, so it's how much did you deposit during month 1? I'm going to deposit 0. How much did you deposit? Did you withdraw during month 1? 0. I'm going to set everything to 0 to see if this is really working. So month 2 deposit 0, month 3 withdraw 0. Set everything to 0. So 6, 0. So now let's see what happens. All right. So the final balance at the end of 6 months is 1,000. So I made $10, somewhere around $10 on top of it. So it looks like it seems to be working. Total amount of deposits is making sense. I made 0 deposits. Total amount of withdrawals is making sense. I made 0 of those two. Total interest, and you can see it's correct too. The interest we earn on our $1,000 is the same interest we earn here. So you can see that this is working, perfectly so far. Now all we have to do is just format these values, so it looks like real dollar amounts. All right, so it's good. It's working like the way it's supposed to work. All right, so this is where we come back to our printf statement here. So these are all placeholders. Percentage d for an integer, meaning an integer is going to replace this percentage d, meaning a float is going to replace this percentage f. And the values that are going to replace these placeholders are going to be the argument, one argument or multiple argument we specify as a second argument of the printf function or the printf method. So the first argument, okay, we specified here. So basically the printf function takes in 2 arguments, the format string, including the format specifiers, and or basically and one or more arguments, in this case multiple arguments, right? And these multiple arguments over here, these arguments are going to replace the placeholders respectively. So the first one here, what is going to replace it is the first argument here. The second argument is going to replace the second placeholder. The third argument is going to replace the third placeholder, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we can format it some more. This is just 6, right? So we don't have to format it format it. But this we want to format it because it's a dollar amount. So that's going to be this one. First of all, we want a dollar sign in front of it. So let's put a dollar sign in front of it. In between the percentage and the f, we can go ahead and specify how many decimal places we want. So we can go ahead and specify the precision. I'm going to type in 0.2 in between the percentage and the f. 0.2 standing for 2 decimal places. If I wanted it to be rounded to 3 decimal places, I would say 0.3. I want it to be rounded to 2 decimal places, so I'd say 0.2. And I also want it to be displayed with commas where necessary. So if it's $1 million, I want it to display 1,000,000,000. I want it to automatically put commas where necessary. And the way I do that is I put a comma in between the precision, before the precision and before the type. So I put a comma here before the precision and before the type. Right, so now I'm done formatting this. I can basically copy this whole string here, replace this because this is also going to be an amount and it's going to be formatted the same way as a dollar amount. So paste that here, change this percentage f also. I can basically just type it myself. So 0.2 for number of decimal basically how many decimal places. Put the dollar sign in front of it here. Put commas where necessary before the precision, and it looks like we are looking good. Okay, one more here. Let me just go ahead and paste what I just copied. All right, so I have 1, 2. Okay, so it looks good. So now let's run this again. This time around, let's just type in 3 months. All right, so please enter the annual interest rate. Let's say 50%. Right, that makes sense. 50%. I'm going to get 50%. That's annual interest rates, right? So let's say at the end of so starting balance is again, let's say $1,000. Again, $1,000. Number of months, let's set it to again 6 months. How much did you deposit during month 1? Let's say 0. How much did you withdraw? Let's say 0. Month 2, 0, 0, 0, 0. And then how much did you withdraw for month 6? Let's say 0. Now let's see how it displays. Okay. So the final balance at the end of 6 months is 1,277.53. See, it's formatted really, really well. The total amount of deposit is 0. Total amount of withdrawals is 0. The total interest end is 277.53, and we can see we earned 277.53 on top of our original $1,000. 6 months is also displayed here. So you can see this is working well, and we had to make some modifications, but it's working well. All right, so at least you have an idea of how this program should work. If there are any changes, go ahead and make the changes. But we've done, for the most part, we've solved the question. Okay, so if you have any questions, well, first of all, sorry about the distraction over here in there. If you have any questions, please comment down below, and as always, I'll do everything to respond to them. Thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Know that I have the Learn Java series going, so if you wanted to learn Java and how the language works, feel free to watch them, okay, and learn a thing or two from it. All right, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time with the next program. All right then, bye bye.